answer all the questions into compulsory sections. Candidates write their answers in the space provided the question. Number 1 of, that is actually not question number 1, that is topic number 1. That is topic number 1 of section A of RP1, and that is comprehension and the use of language task. Now in comprehension and use of language task, we have two different tasks. Now one task is known as comprehension task, as you can see here. Comprehension task has 16 marks. Second task is use of English task, that has 9 marks. That makes it 25. So question number 1 is comprehension task, and what do we expect the students to do? Candidates respond to a series of sub-questions based on text A, a narrative text. These are short answer testing understanding of both explicit and implicit rules. So R1 and R2, reading objective number 1 or reading objective number 2, or so these are short answers testing understanding of both explicit and implicit rules. Text A is approximately 900 words long and is from either the 20th or 21st century. This question tests the following reading assessment objectives, 16 marks. That is question number 1 of your P1. It has 16 marks and it tests the understanding of explicit meanings and implicit meanings and this is what we are going to check in question number 1. That is question number 1 of your reading paper, and it has 16 marks. Now next question is question number 2. That is use of language task. Candidates respond to, and again the same text A. First task was question number 1, comprehension task. Second task is use of language task. Candidates respond to a series of sub-questions based on text A. These are short answers worth a total of 9 marks relating to the author's use of language and the effect this has. This question tests the following reading assessment objectives, 9 marks. This question has 9 marks. And what do we have to show here? Demonstrate understanding of how writers achieve effects and influence readers. We have to understand that why the writer is using a certain word in a sentence, why the writer is using like talking about figurative language, similes, metaphors. So we have to check why the writer is using that kind of language, what kind of impression the writer is trying to create. So here we now know that question number 2 is 9 marks and this is A to B 5 questions, right? Use of language task has 5 questions, 5 short questions, and that makes it 9 marks. Now let's get back. I want you to write here. In this we have questions A to H. They are 8 questions, I guess, and we have, I think part G has 2 questions. Sometimes there's one like A, B, C, any one of them can have 2 questions. So then you can say, sometimes you can say that these are 9 questions, but basically they are 8 to 8 questions. That is comprehension task, 16 marks. And this is use of language task, 9 marks, and this is A to B. Now next one, that is section B, summary and short response. Again, first topic was comprehension and use of language, and it has two questions in it. Question number 1, comprehension task, 16 marks. Question number 2, use of language, 9 marks. Now our second topic, that is summary and short response. It has 25 marks. Now what is the and short response has 5 marks. That makes it 25. So what basically we expect the students to do? Candidates answer a summary task in response to text B. Candidates write a summary as continuous writing of no more than 150 words. For this question, for this part, the section B, text B is used. Text B is approximately 550 to 600 words long. This question tests the following reading assessment objectives, 10 marks. Now, summary writing has 20 marks, 10 for reading and 10 for writing. So what are the reading objectives? That demonstrate understanding of explicit meaning and select and use information for specific purposes. So there are two objectives that are related to summary writing task, that is summary writing task but the reading part, that you have to show understanding of explicit ideas in case of summary writing, and you have to select and use the information for writing a summary. Then next 10 marks in summary writing, they are writing marks, and W2 means writing information that you have selected in R5, select and use. You are going to organize and structure ideas and opinions for deliberate effect. Now this selected information is going to be organized and structured here in the writing objective. Once you have selected the information, you are going to use it, you are going to organize it, you are going to structure ideas and opinions for deliberate effect. Deliberate effect means whatever you want to make it. If you select information, you can write a directed writing task also. You can write a summary writing task also. So this is up to you whether, and any kind of twist that you are going to give it, that is a deliberate one, intentional one that you want to do. So you will organize and structure ideas and opinions for deliberate effect. And then W3, writing objective number 3, use a range of vocabulary and sentence structures appropriate to the text. So in summary writing task, the vocabulary is very important. Usually you are going to be assessed for the use of that, but whether you are capable of using a wide range of vocabulary or not. So here, use a range of vocabulary and sentence structure. These are 4 objectives that are related to assessment, objectives that are related to summary question. Now, the next one, question 3B, short response task. Candidates give a short response to show understanding of implicit meanings and attitudes in response to text B. This question tests the following reading assessment objective, 5 marks, that is R2. R2 is demonstrate understanding of implicit meanings and attitudes. We have seen that question 3A demands the understanding of or demonstration of explicit ideas. Explicit, something that is clearly written there. Whereas B part, 3B, requires the understanding of implicit meaning. So students have to read and then they have to infer the meanings themselves, and then they have to write their answer on the basis of their understanding, what they have understood, or something that was written between the lines, something that was hidden in words. They need to understand it themselves and then come up with their answer. So this was syllabus review of P1. So just a kind of a recap, that in P1 we have 2 hours for doing the paper. We have 50 marks in it, and 50 50 marks we have two topics: comprehension and use of language and summary writing and short response. In that, question number 1 is comprehension task that has 16 marks. Question number 2 is use of language task that has 9 marks. Question number 3A is summary task that has 20 marks, and question number 3B is short response that has 5 marks. So that was the syllabus review of E1. After that, tomorrow inshallah we are going to review E2 and topics of E2 are directed writing and composition. We are going to discuss them in detail tomorrow inshallah. See you then. Take care. Allah Hafiz. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to discuss the same question that we have discussed previously, and that is the last question of use of language task. The use of language task, you have 5 questions A to E, and this one is the last question, and to me this is the most important also because it has 3 marks. The question basically is, we discussed this earlier, we discussed the question with the help of the mark scheme, but now today I am going to give you the written answers. I thought that it might be a bit difficult for you just to form or just to make your own answers, so the better idea is that I should give you written answers, so when you write your own answers or when you are going to do this in your paper, you have this kind of pattern in your mind, and you could see that what kind of answer is expected from you. Now look at this first example that is given here. Identify one example from the below of how the writer uses language effectively to convey Mo's feelings after Mo has lost sight of the money. We have discussed this earlier and you have seen this answer also. So basically when we read the text or when we see the text, the first and most important thing is that we should choose one such example that we feel easy about that, and we think that we can, that is a kind of a thing that is our experience as well, and we can explain that well. And how you will know that first of all you will have to look for the words inside that example. So here we have chosen the example lacework of branches globe. So the most important word here is lacework. How you are going to explain this lacework, or after that if you are explaining globe also, the example of these 2 words. So this gives the impression of delicate fragile twigs and branches at the top, letting the bright sunlight that is related to glow. Bright sunlight through the gaps, the branches make beautiful patterns. Lace. We had discussed this earlier, so I am moving to the next one. And mostly the text that I am using here, they are the text that you are familiar with or you have attempted them in one of your papers or in class or somewhere. But you have attempted these questions, so you can just compare how did you do that and how I have written the answer. And when you are going to attempt your paper, you must go for the same kind of pattern when you write the explanation of the example. And when you choose the example, do not write a very long example. Now in this one, identify one example from the text below of how the writer uses language effectively to convey how Hortense behaves in front of the writer's family. So one 4-5 word line paragraph is given, and I have chosen the example that I have a good example and I can explain it well. Hortense decided that the table was a 4-legged enemy. So in this example, the most important word for me is enemy, and another word is 4-legged. So we know that table is not a human being, table is not a living thing. So this animal is considering this table is animal. For me, important word while explaining, I am going to pay attention to 4-legged and enemy. So the explanation can be, this gives the impression that Hortense behaves wildly and foolishly. as if he sees the table as a threat. So it's an enemy, so he sees it as a threat. It suggests that he acts on instinct. So he thinks that if an animal, what is the instinct of the animals, that when they see animals in front of them, they just tend to attack them. So it suggests that he acts on instinct, charging at the table like considering it his enemy. The idea of the table being an enemy adds humor and shows how disruptive and chaotic his behavior is in front of the writer's family. So this is the example that we have taken from this one. Now, second one, another one. We have discussed this. I am not going to take long with this also, because when we were doing this in the previous video, I discussed this in detail. So the question here, the example here is I experienced wildly. So when I'll explain this word, this phrase, the most important word in this is the word wild. What kind of experience you will have, that is wild. So the writer is, the candidate is explaining it like this. The writer felt free like an animal, like an animal in the wild, and he could do anything without being trapped. So after everything that he's writing after that, that is related to being free or being in the wild, or where you have freedom of doing anything. Nobody is going to trap you, nobody is going to stop you. So you have to pay special attention to the words in the example that you have chosen, and then you will base your explanation on those words. Look at this now. Identify one example of how the writer uses language effectively to describe Vera in the extract from the text. So this one extract is given, and the most attractive example or interesting example that I could find was Princess Vera. I chose that example, I have written it here, and then I have explained it. So how am I going to explain it? This gives so when the word princess is written there, and secondly you can see that the writer has written the word princess with capital P. Where I find that, because whenever we write a name, there is a proper noun, we start it with a capital letter. But the princess is not a capital noun, but he is writing it with capital P, so that is also something here. So I have chosen the example. This gives the impression that Vera is powerful, majestic and commanding respect like royalty, or like a king or a queen or princess. The word princess suggests that she is proud and dignified, and the capitalization adds to her importance. He has written the word princess with capital P. That tells us that this is more important. It is adding importance to this. So you are going to see the words, you are going to analyze them, and then you are going to write them, and it is all about explaining the words. It shows how her true strength and presence are revealed once she is free from the cage, making her seem larger and more impressive. Now, I can safely say that if I just write this, that this gives the impression of Vera is powerful, majestic and commanding, respect like royalty, then that's done. After that, if I just write this, it shows how her true strength, presence are revealed once she is free from the cage, making her seem larger and more impressive. So that's enough. We basically are going to pay attention to the word princess, how it has been used, and what is the connotation of word princess. If a person behaves like a prince, if a girl behaves like a princess, so what is that? What is the impression of being a princess? So you are going to give all attention to that, and then explain this according to this word. Another one. Identify one example of how the writer uses language effectively to convey Matt's feelings in this extract from the text. So I chose this example, until we floated onto the glassy waters. In this, there are two important words, and I'm going to explain them while writing the impression. One word is floated and the other word is glassy. So when I will explain, I will try to give a complete explanation of these two words. So when you are floating on water, even during swimming, when it floats, basically it shows relaxation and calm behavior. Basically, you are in peace. So I'm writing here that this gives the impression that man is calm, relaxed, and at peace. It suggests gentle, effortless movement. So floating is a kind of a movement when you don't move your hands or when you don't move your body, but you are just floating. You are lying there and you are moving yourself. You are not making an effort. So it suggests, because of the word float, it suggests gentle, effortless movement while creating an image of stillness and beauty of the sea. The sea water is reflecting sunlight, making its surface shining. So I thought that instead of word glassy, I should go with shiny. So avoid using the same word in the explanation. It shows that Matt is enjoying the experience. So this is what we are going to do with the explanation of any given example. Another one. Now here I chose two examples, so may how you are going to write this example and explanation question. This is the question that I have taken from your mocks, and first example I have written that I have chosen, and the second example is the, as far as I could recall, I think there were more than 20, or I think almost half of the class chose this example, the second example, and hardly there was one odd student that came with the correct answer. That's why I thought that because you had written the answer, I should explain it for you. So for the first example, that is from Mr. Luckman's photography skills and all that, the text that you did in your mocks. First example that I have chosen, followed by a steady muffled roar of anger and distress. Explanation is, so I'm going to pay attention to word anger, distress, roar, or maybe muffle also. So this gives the impression that the situation has become intense and emotional. So word roar is indicating that situation is, and anger, distress, all three, they explain, they tell us that the situation has become intense and emotional. It suggests a buildup of powerful feelings of depression. When it is distress, it shows that the person in the text is in. It suggests a buildup of powerful feelings of depression, triggered frustration and sadness. But the emotion suppressed, and that is the word muffled now. As partly suppressed, that is an indication of helplessness. So he is angry, he is furious, he is distressed, but his roar, these sounds are muffled. That shows that he is, it shows his helplessness. He cannot do anything, he can't. So this is the explanation of these words. So when you are going to explain any example, you are going to find few words and you will explain them accordingly. Now second example, the mostly students from your class did in mocks. The basins banged against each other. So here the most important word is clanged for me. Clang is a sound of, is a kind of a sound when two metallic things, when they hit each other, when they crash into each other, they produce that kind of sound. So clanged is important, and basin, that utensil that was used there. But the most important word here is clanged. This gives the impression of sudden disruption and noise. The word clang is showing that it is the kind of a disruption and noise. A loud sound creates a sense of chaos and confusion. It shows turning what should be a calm task into a mess. So this clanging of the basins, clanging of the utensils, it shows that a certain process that demanded peace, that demanded a calm environment, it has ended in a complete mess. pause the video here or take screenshot and read these answers and try to write your own answer. And how you are going to do it? You are going to pay attention to certain words in the chosen example and choose the example that you are very confident about, that I can do it well. Now just a few take home ideas here about question 2e. Select the question, select example carefully, ensuring it is not over long and quote it directly. Again, I am telling you, you are going to copy the example from the text. Do not write the example in your own words. You won't get marks for that. Copy the example from the text. Going on to consider what it suggests and its effect. First, spot the word in the example. Which word is the most important word in that example? Ask yourself what is the meaning of that word. Once you are clear about the meaning of that word, after that think that what can be the connotation. Connotation means that if the word princess is written somewhere, someone is related to a king or a palace. So these are connotations that is a royalty. If a word like clang is written there, so that the connotation is noise and sound of chaos. After that, ask yourself the meaning and then go for effect. What kind of effect is creating? Zoom in on individual words within a quotation or extract rather than making journal comments. Do not go for that you are going to write, explain the whole example the way it is written there. Go for words inside that example that can be explained properly. Think of the associations, connotations, pictures, and feelings created by individual words. Like in this example, see when saying the basins clanged. So just you can just picture this in your mind that when two crashing into each other, they are. So you should go for associations, such pictures. You can picture this in your mind also, and such connotations created by individual words. Use your own words to explain the effect. That means example is a copy, whereas explanation is in your own words. Do not copy words from the example. But do not copy words from the example in your. This example also then explained that he began picking pieces of, tucking them into his pocket as he heard the upper surface of the redwood canopy. The lace work of branches. That is another example. The lace work of branches. That can be one example. And this word glow can also be one example. How the branches were glowing. Varied shades of green. That can be one another example that we can choose. He broke out into the sunlight. That can be one more example. So, first thing that you have to do is choose a kind of an example that you think you can explain or you clearly understand what is meant by that phrase, that sentence, or that word. So that the most important thing is that you have very good understanding of the whole text. If you have read the text well, you have this is the last question of comprehension. So till now you had been doing quite a lot of work. You have done comprehension, done this use of language task and 4 questions before this. So this is the last part. Now your understanding of the text is quite good. and you understand that how the writer is using different words, what is the context of the whole story, why the writer is using some specific words are related to trees. So you have to choose such example that you think that is the easiest one for you, or you can explain it. For like, if I have to choose one example, I would have gone for it felt as if he was passing through a membrane. I would have chosen this and then explained it. So when the example is chosen, you will write the example here. See, this is example is written there, and it I must say that do not go for very long sentences. See, an examiner remarks here also, you will come to know that just writing or choosing examples that are too long, that won't help you with your explanation. So go for such sentences that are brief, that are short. If that is a complete sentence, that must be a short sentence, not more than 5 words, I must say. If that is a phrase, that can be 2, 3, 4, 5 words, and even it can be one word also, if you think that you can explain it well. Now, lacework of branches. Look at the explanation. This gives the impression of delicate, fragile twigs and branches at the top, letting the bright sunlight through the gaps. The branches make beautiful patterns. Lacework of branches. The branches make beautiful patterns. So basically, we are just describing this example. We are not talking about the whole story or what's happening there. We have restricted ourselves to this lacework of branches or cloth, because he has written here that the bright sunlight through the gaps, that explains the word cloth here. So, and when you are explaining, sometimes students, they tend to write 4, 5, 6, 7 lines even. If there are 2 lines given, the explanation can only be 2 lines. If 3 lines are given, just try to give an explanation that is of 3 lines. You just have 2 marks. Once you have chosen the example, you get your 1 mark there, if that is the correct example. And when you are explaining it, 2 marks are for the explanation, and 2 lines are quite enough for that explanation, and maximum 3 lines if they have given. If they have given only 2 lines, answer space is only 2 lines, so please do not write more explanation than that. Okay. The example offered overlaps 2 marks in choices. See, just 1 is required. How? Let's have a look. In mark scheme, they have given that lacework of branches is 1, explained differently. So here they are saying the choices, just 1 is required. However, the focus is clearly on the delicacy and beauty of lacework of branches, offering a full explanation of that choice. So the student got 3 marks out of 3 just by writing those 2 lines. Now look at it. Identify one example of how the writer used to convey his feelings once he begins his double life in this extract from the text. So began a period in which I lived a double life. Now if I had to choose, I would have chosen this, I lived a double life also. But the candidate, he has chosen the example, I experience widely. So what is meant by this thing, I experience widely? He is explaining the explanation. Now see here, they have given 4 lines. So the student has written 4 lines. So you just have to fit your answer in those lines, that answer space that is provided. Do not go beyond that. So the example is I experience widely. The explanation is the writer felt free. The writer felt free like an animal in the wild. He could do anything with or without being trapped to follow orders or being scared of getting scolded. He was open to all ideas and let imagination flow with no restrictions until he found the right combination. He felt like an unstoppable force. See? Quite good explanation, but a little bit. So you need to take out 1 sentence and explain it like that, and go for brief sentences, please. Now look at this. we have the examiner comments also. The example selected is both relevant and precise, and 1 mark is awarded. The explanation. The explanation demonstrates a clear understanding of the effect of the selected example. The response explores the associations of the word wildly, the idea of being free, not having to follow orders, letting his imagination flow, and feeling like an unstoppable force. This is a very full response. That, like I said, this is too much. So this is a very full response, and 2 of these effects would have been sufficient for maximum marks. So this is what I said, that he has written quite a long answer. If he just impressions, 2 explanations, that must have been enough. So this is a very full response, and 2 of these effects would have been enough, sufficient for maximum marks. Like he has written, the writer felt free like an animal in the wild, and he could do anything without being trapped or to follow orders or being scared of getting scolded. That would have been enough. That is all that was needed there. The rest of the sentences, they are extra, but still he has written quite a full response, but he manages to get 3 out of 3. Now, next question. Identify one example of how the writer uses language effectively to convey Matt's feelings in the extract from the text. The extract is given. Explain the impression the writer creates in the example you have identified. So, 3 lines are given and only 1 line is given, for example. Again, I am telling you, again I am requesting you, do not go for very long lines. Just choose an example that is not more than 5 words. Okay? If there is a requirement that you want to write one complete sentence and it's more than 5 words, you can complete your sentence, but still go for phrases. One part of the sentence and then explain that only. For the next half waves rocked us as we rose and we sang. This is also a very nice sentence. As we rose and we sang. Like when we were swimming, sometimes we were coming up on the surface and then we were going down, and we were enjoying that part. We were enjoying swimming on the sea, on the surface of the sea, and under the sea as well. A contented pod of. Okay, let's look at the mark scheme. So mark scheme is available there. You can write about slow waves rocked us as we rose and we sang. Even if you just write as we rose and we sang, I think that would also be a good answer, good example. Then finally I let my feet trail basking in the warmth. That would have been enough. Washing over me. Here the writer has written complete sentences. You can also write them, if that is the requirement, you can write such. I had to choose, I would have written, finally I let my feet trail basking in the warmth. That's enough. Here I would have we rose and we, as we rose and we sang, floated. So here the word glassy basically is the E here. So see in the first one, moving up and down in rhythm with the waves, repetition of movement. C is gentle, calm, feeling of safety, reassurance and relaxation. Second one, relaxed, calm, glow of achievement, pleasure, enjoyment, happiness, spreading all over him. Really floated onto the glassy waters, moving gently on the water, at ease, restful, slowing down. Sea is clear, that from glassy, smooth and shiny. There are many examples possible here. A content you can just pause the video here, read all those examples and write them. The better way is that you take out the example, see the words in the mark scheme and then write your explanation. Once you write your explanation, that would make you quite like it will give you a kind of a practice for writing a full-fledged answer. A contented pod of swimmers, happy, relaxed, swimming in a group, feeling of togetherness. So this sentence explains that the swimmers were moving in, they were together, they were happy, they were relaxing there, they were enjoying their time with each other, and they were like there is a shoal of fish in the under the sea, or there are animals who are moving in groups like animals we see underwater. Sun still, so you will start it like this. The writer is trying to give the impression. Sun still stretched its narrow, its deep underwater. In this also, so there we have different examples. These are possible here. Choose one example and then write your answer. Now, this is the part that I wanted to discuss with you. First thing is example. The first task for 1 mark was to provide an example from the extract in the form of a quotation. Remember, this is in the form of a quotation. This is a copy from the text. Still there are one or two students who are paraphrasing something from the text. They are not copying. They are writing the example in their own words. You have to copy the example from the text. The way it is written there, just pick it up from there and paste it in your answer. If you write example in your own words, no marks for that. If you write example in your own words, no marks for that. You will get to copy. Marks are for the copy only. No marks for own word example. Clear? Candidates are given a single line in the answer space to write the example chosen, and quotations should not exceed this line. See, if your example is too long, it might affect your marks. So they are saying that the answer space is to write the example chosen, and quotations should not exceed this line. They are not saying must not, should not. So you should also pay heed to this, that go for short examples. Careful selection of the example is a key part for answering question number 2E. The example chosen needs to be rich enough in suggestion and connotation for two impressions to be confidently conveyed. Finally, I let my feet trail basking in the warmth washing over me proved a successful choice, as there were several possible impressions: relief from finally, relaxation from basking pleasure from the basking warmth washing over, or a sense of achievement from the whole example. Ellipses and the references were sometimes offered, but these are not acceptable substitutes for the words and to be avoided. What are ellipses? Sometimes students, what they do, like let's say here the example is written, it is written here finally, it is written here that finally, and after that what does the student do? After that they do, these are called ellipses. The student writes these dots there, puts the dots, and then writes the final word, that was washing over me. This is called to ellipse the words. So you cannot do this. You have to choose one short answer, one short example, and you have to write it completely there. If you do this, you won't be getting marks. So ellipses are and sometimes there are such champions also who write that, okay, I have chosen line number 5, or this ellipse I have already told. This is not acceptable. You are anything that you are going to choose as an example, you are going to write it there in that one line. Be clear about this. Ellipses are and the line references were sometimes offered, but these are not acceptable substitutes for the words and are to be avoided. The example must be words from the extract and not a paraphrase or technical terms such as personification or metaphor. One thing, the example must be words from the extract and not paraphrase. You are not allowed to write example in your own words. You must copy it from the text. I think I made myself clear here. Now explanation. There were several impressive explanations demonstrating both careful and imaginative analysis of the selected example. 2 marks were available for this part of the question, and explanation had to be written in candidate's own words. Explanation must be in your own words. Here, no copying is allowed. Own words to demonstrate secure understanding. Understanding the meaning of a key word is a helpful starting point for understanding an effect of that word. For example, with a contented pod of swimmers, the explanation that they were happy was awarded 1 mark. The student wrote that all the swimmers, they were happy together, so you got your 1 mark for that. Successful explanations focused on the connotations and associations of a word or image in the quotation. Another well-chosen example which resulted in some very strong explanation was jellyfish glowing hypnotically under faint shoals of shimmering fish with explanations such as beauty, mesmerizing, shining. Another successful choice was sun still stretched its arrows down deep underwater, with the explanation that the sun rays went far into the sea, down deep under, lighting up what was below. So basically, when you have chosen an example, do not repeat the words of that example in your explanation. Do not repeat the words of example in your explanation and explain it in your own words. If the word contented is used in explanation, go for word delight or happy instead of writing word content here. So example must be in your own example must be a copy of the text, copy from the text, and explanation must be in your own words and only in the Occasionally, candidates gave an explanation and then explained the impression created by language elsewhere in the text. As this did not demonstrate how the writer had used language effectively in their chosen example, the explanation could not be credited. So you have to choose the part that is provided, choose example from there, and then explain it according to advice to the candidate for this question 2E. Select the question 2E example carefully, ensuring that you have ideas for how to respond to the explanation part of the task. Choose an example that is not over long and quote it directly. Do not use line references or ellipses. We have discussed it already. To substitute as words not written in the example will not be credited. If the words are not written, I think now you are clear about it, that you are going to copy the words from the text, for example. Start by thinking of the meaning of words before going to consider the associations, connotations, pictures and feelings created by them. Like if the word is erupt, first think what is the meaning of word erupt. If the word is whip, first think that what is the meaning of word whip. After that, think how the animal is moving its tail, or what is the connotation of that word. The connotation of word erupt is the volcano. So you are going to use these words. First understand the word, then explain. Individual words within your chosen example rather than making general comments. Use your own words in your explanation rather than words from the text. Then if a comparison is made, think about the similarities and about what connects the two things. Practice by looking at the effect of language in different texts such as advertisements and song lyrics. Look at this. Identify one example of how the writer uses language effectively to describe Vera in this extract from the text. So one example is given. You have to choose one example here and then for the explanation. Let's have a look at the marks here. Transfixed by her bristling tail. 1. The tense snake of her spine, her low growl, a pause, then she's away. Erupting from the cage. That's my favorite example. Erupting from the cage. So, and there are other examples possible. There are many. 11 examples you can take of Princess Vera, and another very beautiful example. So all the examples are copied from the text. They are a copy of the words given in the text. We have taken them out and then explanations are written in front of them. Like erupting from the cage is leaps out of the cage, energy, speed, freedom, unrestrained, like a volcano, explosive, dangerous. You need to explain, like if you are writing erupting from the cage, so you will write it like this, that the writer is trying to give an impression that when this animal, this cat, this lion came out, a wild cat came out of the cage, it erupted. Do not use the word erupted there. It came out like in a violent form, like lava comes out of a volcano. It came out with speed and then showed that it is free now, there's no restrictions, and that showed that she could be quite dangerous at that time. So words are written there. Pause the video here and try to write explanation of 2 or 3 examples. There are all examples and the explanation of different words is written there. Just you have to make them one complete answer. Okay. We have discussed these things. I think there is no need to discuss this again, because the video already, I think, is exceeding the time limit. If the first task for 1 mark was to provide an example. Now the thing is, all these points you can pause the video here, read them again. Pause the video here. All these points, they are about the video, they are about the explanation. Read them if you want to, but these are the points that we have already discussed. All these points we have already discussed. They are about select example carefully, ensuring it is not over long, and quote it directly. Consider the meaning of a word before going on to consider what it suggests, its effect, zoom in. So we have discussed all these things. You can pause the video here, you can read them again. So for me, the points are, there are 2-3 points. One thing that you must keep in your mind before attempting this question, that the example must be a copy. It must be copied from the text. Second thing, it must not be very long. It can be a short sentence, a brief sentence, a phrase, or even one word. But you have to choose an example that you think that has lots of stuff inside. That is the kind of example that you think that it would be easy for you to explain it. Then the explanation that you are going to write, that must be those 2 or 3 lines that are given. Do not write a complete essay for the explanation of just one short sentence. So 2 or 3 line explanations, and while writing the explanation, give attention to the words that you have chosen. Like there was a word widely, so you can explain that word widely in the answer. Then there was a word that was related to content. There was a word that was related to, so different words that we have just we have discussed here in all the responses. That shooting me, a look of disgust, or her growl has got louder than, or she erupting from the cage. So when you are explaining these examples, you have to pay attention to individual words and then explain those words and think that what is the connotation, what is, why, how we use this word, and then write your explanation of 2 or 3 lines, and that is quite enough for you. Do not go for very long or such kind of explanations that will make you will also feel confused that what actually I'm trying to write. So 2-3 lines are enough. That's all for now, and I think we have completed use of language task, and this would be helpful for you, inshallah. And all the best with your exam, and do watch all the videos so that you have a clarity of mind before attempting your exam. All the best. Allah Hafiz. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This time we are going to discuss impression question. Impression question is part of question number 2, use of language task, and it deals with the writer's use of language, how the writer is using language effectively, and how the writer's attitude or use of language is influencing the reader. This question is usually question 2B or 2C in your use of language task. Question number 2 of E1. So question is, this is from specimen paper. What 2 impressions does the writer want to convey to the reader in the sentence? Sometimes, or it's not sometimes, it's always that some students, they feel it really very difficult to take out impressions, anything that they are reading, it becomes difficult for them that how should they come up with correct impressions from a sentence. Now, necessarily this is not the case that or every time you have just two impressions in a text. Maybe you have 4, 5, 6, 7 impressions in a text, and you can conveniently take out only two that are understandable for you. Now look at this question, that the part of text, the sentence that has been taken from the text, it is written here. This question carries 2 marks. They have asked you for 2 impressions, so you need to write your impressions very clearly. Now first thing is, usually when I advise my students that how they should go for impression writing, so first thing is that divide your question in 2 parts. Now if I have to write the impression here, I will divide this question in 2 parts. This is one part for me, and this one, that is second part for me. So while choosing 2 impressions, I'm going to dissect these 2 different parts and will try to take out 2 impressions for them. Now look at the first one. There was foliage everywhere. So if you know, and I hope you know, that foliage means greenery. So foliage means some kind of greenness that leaves create. If you don't know the meaning of foliage, the next word is telling us above, below, and on all sides. Next, they have written layer upon layers of leaves. If you don't understand the word foliage, this is telling you that there was foliage everywhere, above, below, and on all sides, layer upon layer of leaves. So word leaves is telling you here that here in the first part they are talking about leaves. There was foliage everywhere, above, below, and on all sides. What does that mean? What is the impression that writer is trying to create from this line? Or even if I add to convey the meaning for you. So the candidate has written the leaves completely surround him. That is the first impression, and you will get your marks for this. This one impression, you got 1 mark for this. The leaves completely surround him. Leaves basically is greenness, foliage. So he had leaves on all sides and he was surrounded by leaves. This conveys the meaning that he was inside the tree and leaves were all around him. Now the second impression. Second impression is that layer upon layers, that can go with the first one also, like tents within tents. Layer upon layers of leaves, like tents within tents. What is the meaning of that? The student has written there is no way out, it's completely green. Now if we talk about this one, it's completely green. This is a part of this explanation. First impression, the leaves completely surround him, it's completely green. That is one impression. Anything that you have to write about the greenery, that will be considered one impression, because you have already written that the leaves completely surround him. Foliage means green, so it's completely green. That is one impression, whether you have written this sentence here and you have written it earlier. So you are going to then get 1 mark for this. Now as far as second impression is concerned, the student has written there is no way out, because there are layers upon layers, there are leaves like tents within tents. So if you want to write there is no way out is not enough to give the impression. Basically the writer is trying to tell that the space inside is so closely knit together that the leaves are, or the branches are closely knit together, that you do not get space to get out of that place. It is a kind of a complex place. It is a kind of a place where leaves are creating that kind of layer that for a person it becomes really impossible to get out of that place. So just there is no way out is not conveying the complete meaning. So if you are writing, because the place is complex, it is like a maze, you can use word maze here also, the one that we have discussed earlier. So it's like a maze. It has tents within tents. Do not write tents within tents in your explanation. So things are so complexly joined together, they are close together, that a person cannot find its way out and you are lost somewhere inside. In this way, you will get marks. Only for this, you are not going to get marks. Now, look at the explanation from the examiner. So, this was question 2C. This answer shows understanding of being totally surrounded by greenery or leaves. That is bullet 1 in mark scheme. But no way out needs more careful explanation to evidence understanding of the description layer upon layer or the image of tent within tents. So just by writing one line that is no way out, your meaning is not clear. That's why if no way out is correct, but this is vague, it needs more explanation. So that you can explain that there were tents within tents or there were layers upon layers. Basically, you have to talk about the complexity of that structure. The structure of the tree was so complex because of those layers of leaves that a person, or it was impossible for a person to find his way out. Then you might have got your answer. Now, next one. What two impressions does the writer want to convey to the reader in the sentence? In this sentence, and so I learned the subtle art of more complex water ices, sorbetry, in which the syrups themselves were frozen, transforming magically to mounds of glittering crystals, and sherbets, the most difficult and enchanting of all, expertly infused with fragrant cardamom and resembling frozen snow. If I read this, I can find many different impressions here. Let's give it a try. So I learned the subtle art of, one thing that one impression is he's trying to give us is, I learned the subtle art of more complex water ices. One thing that he has learned the art of, he has learned some kind of skill where he can make more complex or different kinds of ices. One thing that is sorbetry. Then second thing is that he can the most difficult and enchanting of all, expertly infused. This is also giving an expression, expertly infused with fragrant cardamom. That first he learned the art of complex waters, and after that he also learned another thing, and that was that how to infuse, how to put aroma or fragrance of cardamom or any kind of fragrance in that ice crystals, in that frozen snow. So basically there are, I think that the writer was and more about the beautiful complex water ices, one thing, and that he was most amazed by how expertly everything was made. Everything was made, I don't know what's written there. Everything was made most careful details. Everything was made I think. Everything was made with most careful details. So he has come up with these answers. Now what is the marks? The candidate provides two correct impressions, recognizing that ices and that they are made with a description of their construction. Each correct impression 1 mark. So this is not just one impression that we can get here. There are 5-6 impressions that are available here. If we read the marks, we'll see whether I have written it or not. No, I think I don't have the marks right now here. You can just check it in the marks scheme. So what is he trying to say in this sentence? Yes. Now, so question is, what the writer, the impressions were, if we to choose impressions for ourselves here. First thing was that he was learning, or he has learned more complex things. He was learning new things daily, and he had learned new things, and that is evidently clearly written in first line. So I learned the subtle art of complex water ices. Then after that he is writing this, that the most and enchanting, expertly infused with cardamom and resembling. If you read the mark scheme, you will find that all these impressions are available there. You can just take them out. That first he learned the art of complex water ices. Secondly, he also learned how to expertly infuse or put water or put smell or aroma inside those that frozen snow. There was one thing, and there was another thing also, that he was learning careful details of how to write these things. So I learned subtle art of more complex processes. So you can find in one extract, in one paragraph that is given there, you can find 5 to 6 different impressions. There is no need to be scared of this kind of question. Just try to give yourself some time, read them, and try to come up with as many impressions as possible, and then go for two most important. If I had to write this, I would have written that. So I learned the art of complex water ices, that first one, and it will explain this, and second one, that I expertly infuse the aroma into those ices. These are the two impressions that he is trying to give us from there. Now, next line, next sentence. What two impressions does the writer want to convey to the reader in the sentence? Splashes of water erupted in all directions, and then we slumped forward, went under and pulled ourselves through the swirling green, quiet veil of bubbles. So when you read this, you need to come up with two impressions. First impression that I get here is from the word erupted. Now, erupted is the word that is used for volcanoes. When something is erupting, that means that thing shows eruption, shows violence, eruption shows intensity of something. So word erupted here, when splashes of water erupting, that means there is a lot of activity, things are going in a frenzy, things are quick and happening very quickly and in a violent way also, all directions. And then we slumped forward, that they were slumped forward also. This is also is giving us an impression that they, without anything, because there was a lot of activity and they continue to move forward, went under, pulled ourselves through the swirling green, quiet. And this second part that is explaining what kind of beauty they saw, went under and pulled ourselves through the swirling green. So when they went under, they saw this kind of green, quiet veil of bubbles. This second part is telling us about the beauty of the bed of sea, and it is telling us how the world is beautiful under sea. So you will read this and you will come up with your impressions after reading this. That is the mark scheme of this splashes of water erupted. So there are different impressions available. See, from word eruption and splashes of water erupted in all directions, that shows that there was noise, there was chaos, there was a kind of activity, water going everywhere like explosions, a volcano. See, I told you this, volcano. Fall heavily into water, slump forward, that means that shows force, energy, strength, whirling, ripping. These are almost 6 impressions that you can find there. So you just have to write 2. Whirling and ripping water, calm, no noise underwater. When you are talking about the life underwater, so this was there, and pulled ourselves through the swirling green, quiet. This word quiet is giving us the impression that on the surface of the sea it was quite noisy, but when we went under it was quiet. So word quiet is also giving another expression. And no noise underwater, otherworldly delicacy of beauty. And this part, this veil of bubbles or swirling green, this is telling us that how beautiful the life is underwater, or how beautiful the area or the place is underwater. So there are different kind of impressions available. You just need to understand them and then come up with 2 most appropriate impressions that you think are very that are present there, and not just present there, they are the most effective ones also. So you are going to choose 2 such expressions, 2 few such impressions that in your opinion are the most effective ones. Okay, next line now. See, what two impressions does this is from the examiner comments. This question required candidates to give two impressions, two different ideas drawn from anywhere in the extract. Above could score. Successful responses avoided generalization, listing terminology, repeating words from the text, and explaining the narrative. If you take words from the word, like if you are going to explain the word erupted, or you are talking about the impression of quiet, if you are talking about the impression of slumping forward, any such impression, and you are using those words from the text, that means it is very difficult to get marks, because you are generalizing things from there and you are copying the words from the text. So you don't have to repeat the words, you don't have to repeat the terminology, you don't have to write the words from the narrative of the text. Basically, you will have to explain the impression. One impression offered in a number of successful responses was the chaos or water going everywhere, that is, splashes of water erupted in all directions. This is the first impression that most of the students, they went for this impression. That was quite evident in the first line. Splashes of water erupted in all directions. That shows lots of activity also. Was the chaos or the water going everywhere? Other impressions included the energy shown by the swimmers from pulled ourselves, or the calm silence from the quiet bubbles. The best responses noted the contrast between the noise above the water and the lack of noise below. See, this is the thing that you have to see. First thing is, splashes of water erupted in all directions. This is, life is quite busy on the surface of the sea. Whereas when you pull yourself towards the bed of the water or bed of the sea, you see that the life is swirling green, quiet whale of bubbles. So basically, the writer is trying to give an impression that life on the surface of the water and underwater, these are two totally different worlds. So these were the best responses, noted the contrast between the noise above water and lack of noise below. I think I remember there were many students when you had attempted this in one of your long assessments, I guess. So there were a few students, or I don't know, few students, or there were a number of students who wrote this comparison, that life under sea was quiet, the life under sea was in contrast to the activity above, it was calm. So you can definitely find such impressions. The best responses noted the contrast between noise above water and the lack of noise below. There was some misinterpretation of the swirling green as dirty water and the splashes as evidence of swimmer fighting for space in an attempt to win the race. So definitely that is not the impression that the writer is trying to give. That's why you cannot get marks for that. What two impressions does the writer want to convey to the reader about the puma in the sentence? But then her long tail whips, and I glimpse the only parts of her that stand out. Her eyes, as green as the paddle-shaped plants surrounding us, and her nose, pink as the tip of the sunset. Different impressions are available here. First thing is, her long tail whips. That tells how alert the animal is. If her tail is whipping, if her tail is a kind of in a situation or in a condition that it whips it, that means the animal is alert. I glimpse the only part of her stand out, that the only part of her that stand out in that was. And the different parts of her body, her eyes, her as green as, so basically the writer is comparing puma's eyes to plants. Here the writer is trying to tell us that how beautiful that animal is. The eyes are being compared to plants, and the nose is pink, and her nose is being compared as the tip of a sunset. So these are different impressions that the writer is trying to create. Now let's see the mark. Here we have six possible impressions. First impression is sudden and unpredictable movement of the tail, whipping of the tail. Whip suggests power, violence, danger, frightening, seen briefly, mysterious. So word whips is very important. That the way the animal is moving its tail, whipping its tail, that shows energy, force, power, violence, and the mood of the animal. That is also available there. Then seen briefly or as mysterious also. Only parts of her that eye glimpse. Seen briefly is the eye glimpse. That means I just have a look at that. I do not see that for a longer period of time, but I just get a glimpse. That means I have seen the animal, I see the animal very briefly for just a few seconds. Next is vivid, striking colors, bright green, pink of eyes, nose colors contrast with darkness, can only see eyes, nose colors. Part of nature, the jungle is wild, doesn't belong in a cage. Eyes, nose, she is beautiful, captivating, amazing, unique and striking. So basically different kind of expressions are being used by the writer to convey that the animal is beautiful, eyes, nose, while he is comparing them to sunset, plants and all that of things. So if you see, this is not the case that no impressions are available and it is difficult for you to understand or take out impressions. Rather, the part of the text that is given there, it is full of impressions. You just need to take out two out of them. So you can easily do that. Have a look at this. Two different ideas drawn from anywhere in the extract above would score. Successful responses avoided repeating the words in the extract. So that's why I have taken these extract from the examiner report that tells us that if you take words from the extract and write them, like if you are writing that her nose was as pink as the tip of a sunset, you won't get marks. This is not the way to get marks. So for example, so you don't have to repeat words or take words from that. For example, the extract tells us that the puma's eyes and nose are the colors of plants and sunset respectively. Perceptive responses recognize that these are both the images of nature, which she is a part of the nature. So instead of writing that her nose is as pink as the tip of the sunset, she is trying to tell that she is a part of the nature, or she belongs in the jungle, not in the cage. Less secure responses simply repeated the words. Her nose is pink as like a sunset. You have no marks for that without an analysis of their effect. Many responses correctly recognize that these images also created an impression of beauty and that the puma was magnificent and captivating. So basically, when you are talking about her eyes, when you are talking about her nose, you are talking about her beauty. So these are also quite successful answers. Candidates need to focus on individual words in the extract. Like I told you, the word whip is here, the word I glimpse is here, then the word is her eyes are here, surrounding us plants, and this is the whole sentence that nose and eyes are being compared to something. So you need to look for, candidates need to focus on individual words in the extract. The impression of a puma which is fierce or dangerous is suggested by the comparison of the tail to a whip, while the word glimpse gives the impression that the puma is seen briefly and is mysterious. While it is useful to consider the extract in the context, some responses refer to the preceding sentence. The puma is hard to spot, or preceding, that means it is not written in the text but it is written in the previous part of the text that is not mentioned here. So you can go to that to understand this line completely. The puma is hard to spot or difficult to see in the shadows are not impressions created by the specified extract. So some students, what did they do? Instead of taking out impressions from the given extract. They just went back to the previous one and they came out with the impressions from that. You have to take out impressions from the given sentences only. You cannot bring forward something from the previous or the later part of the text. The puma is how done. The impressions created in the extract in the question is that her features are prominent, so prominent, or that her eyes and nose are brightly colored and noticeable against her dark fur. So these are different kind of expression. You think about it, pay attention to the individual words. Like in the previous question, the word was erupt. In this, it is whips. Here you have the comparison of the beauty of the animal. You need to look for words and then explain those words if you know the connotation of these words. What actually whipping of the tail means, what actually glimpse means. So for that, definitely you need to come up with the understanding of the whole text and understanding of these words also. That's for all. That's all for now, and we are done with impression question. And the final thing about impression question is that in a question, in that extract, sometimes 5 to 6 impressions are available. You need to underline some such words that are that have specific meanings, that are very clearly seen there, and underline them and then think about those words and choose only 2 impressions that in your opinion are the most important ones, and then write the explanation of that one word or that one thing that you've chosen in your own words with the help of the pointers. That's all for now. Allah Hafiz. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. We are discussing question number 2 of paper 1, and that question is use of language task, and in that that question carries 9 marks. We have discussed 2 questions as of now. First question is read this extract and tell that what is the writer trying to suggest, what has happened till this point in the story. And second question was, we discussed this in the previous video. Second question was that read this sentence and tell that why the writer is using certain words and what kind of effect the writer is trying to give us. Now this is the third question. Usually this is question 2B. It can be 2C also in your use of language task. So usually this question that we are going to talk about, that question deals with the use of words. Why? And that has some kind of grammatical as well as kind of a connection that shows why certain vocabulary has been used instead of why the writer is giving preference to one word over another word. So look at this question. Explain why the writer uses the word stronger rather than strong in the expression a stronger branch. So all these questions that we see, these questions, they are dealing with different words, their one form or the other form, or mostly two same kinds of words. Sometimes their meaning is also same, but writer chooses to use one word instead of the other. So why the writer is using word stronger rather than strong? Answer is, it is still not strong, only stronger than the other one or the previous one, so could break. So writer is using the word stronger here. He is trying to give the impression that this is the just stronger. Strong, the previous one was strong. These are comparative adjectives. There is no need to write the comparative adjective word there in your answer. So these are comparative adjectives. Writer is using the word comparative degree or second word, that is stronger, just to show that it is only stronger than the previous branch. It is not the strongest of all. That's why if the previous the branch that he was holding earlier, if that can break, that means this branch can also break. That is also weaker branch. But comparatively, as compared to the previous one, it is better. So that's why he's saying it is still not strong enough, or it is still not strong, only stronger than the other one, so could break. So you will, in these questions, you are going to pay attention to the word, that what kind of meaning one specific word is giving. Explain why the writer uses the word creature rather than boy in expression a creature incapable of reason. Line number 48. So here the writer has used a creature incapable of reason. Why the writer didn't say that he was a boy incapable of reason? So why is he using the word creature here rather than boy? So we will think about it that when we use the word creature, where we use the word animal, where we use the word human or boy. So if we choose to use word creature for someone, basically what kind of message we are going to convey, or what kind of message the writer is conveying to us by using the word creature here. That Ahmed did not see him as a human or value him enough. He just thought of the writer as a dumb animal that had no comparison with a human, or that has no comparison with a boy or human. So here writer, that is the complete explanation, because that's why the writer is calling him creature. He thinks that he is less than a human. He is not a human at all. He is less than that because he has no faculties of mind. He cannot think properly. He cannot read or write, or he cannot understand things properly. So he is not less than an animal. He is just an animal. That's why he is using a word creature that we usually use for animals, insects, birds, all these things. That's why he is using this word. So all your attention, all your focus is going to be on these two words. One is boy, one is creature. You'll ask yourself that if I write a boy incapable of reason, how would I feel, or how would the reader feel? And if I use the word creature, so what is the difference there? You are going to understand it yourself, and after that you are going to convey the message to the but after that you are going to convey the message to the reader, to the examiner, that the writer, the answer that you are going to write there. So that is the examiner comment here. The candidate correctly explains the effect of the word creature rather than boy, recognizing that it suggests the writer is not regarded as human, is seen as an animal, and is not valued. Each of these three ideas are correct. Only one answer is required for 1 mark. So the writer is saying, the examiner is saying that here he has seen that Ahmed did not see him as human. That's why he wrote word creature there instead of, even if he would have written this much, the answer was correct. There's no need to do that longer explanation of that. Only that Ahmed did not see him as a human, that answer is correct. Or value him enough, he just thought the writer was a dumb animal. That answer is also correct. He had no comparison with a human. So the writer, the candidate has written 3 complete answers in these 2 lines. Even if he wrote just one answer, just one line, just one sentence, that would have been enough. But still, the candidate got his marks because he conveyed the message completely. Next question now. Explain why the writer uses the word paused rather than stopped in the phrase "we paused in the middle of the rush of bodies." Again, there are 2 words. You are going to compare those 2 words with each other. In this case, I think this question is quite easy for you all, because when you are recording a video, when you are listening to something on radio, when you are watching TV, when you are is related to this media thing, when you are doing that, so when you pause something, basically you are likely to you are going to continue after some time. You will pause.